Hey there folks, Luke here with the Outdoor Gear Review. Hope you're all doing well. Today for this episode we are discussing an alternative to char cloth for the use as a fire starter. This is going to be a short and sweet episode and we might as well get started now. So for this method here, this is pretty much an Outdoor Gear Review exclusive. You guys may have seen something similar. You can get a fire going using a battery, a 9-volt battery with steel wool. But this basically just comes from my book of tricks. Happy to show it to you. Now for this alternative, we are using a product known as steel wool. This is very fine. It's super lightweight. You can get this stuff for a very, very cheap price. Let me go ahead and show you guys the packaging. So you got steel wool, and this is super fine. This entire package weighs almost nothing. Super duper lightweight, and you can tear out a whole pad. You could just use a chunk of it, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to carry with you in your fire kit. In my fire kit, I keep a small Ziploc bag, just stuffed full of it. Like I said, weighs absolutely nothing. So we're going to use a chunk of this. And I tell you what, just that much right there can start many, many fires. So I'm just going to tear off a small little piece. I mean, that right there is enough to get your fire going, especially if your tinder is nice and dry. If it's a little bit damp or moist, you can use more. Now for this video, we're going to be using some dry bark, and I'm going to shred this up, I'm going to knead it up, I'm going to expose some of those fibers, and already this is pretty good stuff, but I can make it even better so it's just that much easier for the heat for those embers to transfer to my fire bundle. Now you can use this stuff with grass, you can use it with wood shavings, feather sticks, whatever you want. Now this stuff right here is fantastic. Okay, so we have our bundle, we have our steel wool, and what we're gonna do here, folks, is we're gonna kind of pull this apart a little bit, and we're gonna kind of stick that right in the middle. Just like so. You can see there it's just right in the middle. Now it's important to remember that when you're putting your bundle together, you want to have this in the middle, but you want to have plenty of material behind it, because once you throw a spark on this and you start blowing on it, all that heat is going to be pushed through it into the back of the bundle, right? And let me tell you, let me go ahead and warn you ahead of time, this stuff burns very, very hot. You'll want to make sure that you have your hands and your fingers away from that steel wool, because this stuff really does get hot. As you can see here on my hip, I have my knife. I also have my ferro rod. Now this is the Mora Bushcraft knife, along with the ferro rod that comes with this version. There's a couple different versions of it. This one actually has the integrated ferro rod that fits right into the sheath. Super duper nice. Very good knife, very good ferro rod. Now before I light up this bundle, I'm going to go ahead and tear off another piece, a little bit bigger piece, just because I want to show you guys how well this works. You definitely do not want to hold this stuff because, like I said, it gets super duper hot. I'm going to go ahead and throw a spark on this and show you what I'm talking about. Here is our steel wool. Here's our striker, our knife. It's already going. Check that out. Woo! Super hot. So let's go ahead, get our bundle going. Take our ferro rod, take our knife here, we're going to light this up. This stuff accepts a spark like that, just like char cloth does, but of course it gets so much hotter. Let's do this. And already, guys, this thing is burning away, as you can see. And I used just a very, very small piece. We got the bark going, shredded up nice and easy. That was just like that. Now we're going to use some leaves. I got these off the ground. They're just a little bit wet. So we're going to take a little bit bigger piece of our wool here. There you go. Since these leaves are just a little bit damp, we want a little bit more. Now for this test, I'm not going to pick this up. I'm just going to leave it where it's at and blow on it. just for the fact that this stuff gets so hot. I'm using more of it. There's a good possibility that you're going to burn your fingers if you hold this, especially with the leaves, because there's not going to be a good central place. You can't hold it lower than where your wool's going to be at. So let's go ahead, strike this up. And there you go. Nice and easy. I tell you what, if you've ever used char cloth before, for some people it's not very easy. I mean, it's definitely dependent on your conditions, and so is this. But this burns probably about 100 times hotter than char cloth. We might as well do this one more time, and this time we're going to use some wood shavings, just so I can show you guys how well this works. Now, of course, wood shavings are just a tad bit harder to get lit than, say, grass or leaves or, torn up bark. So you want to make sure that your shavings are nice and thin. You want to have some rough edges for the sparks, for the heat, the embers to latch onto. So I'm just going to tear off another little piece, and I'm going to go ahead and start shaving on this stick. If you want to, you can make a feather stick. I just like making a big old pile of shavings, but you can do whatever you want to. Now for this, I'm going to take all those shavings and I'm just going to put them on top of that steel wool. So let me show you here what I'm doing. You have the steel wool on the bottom, wood shavings on the top, and I am just going to roll that up just like this. Basically making a nice little nest. That way it can burn all the way around. Now I'm going to shave up just a little bit more just to put on top. Now, of course, the more shavings that you have, the better the odds are of getting a fire going. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to do a very small bundle, show it lit on fire, just so you can see what I'm talking about. And for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and shove a stick into this. That way, once I throw a spark on it, I can actually pick this up. All right, so we are ready to go. We have our little bit of shavings here. Let's go ahead and do this. On fire already. Check that out. So simple. So right there, folks, I showed you guys how to get a fire going. I showed you an alternative to char cloth, which I really think is a whole lot better than char cloth, no doubt about it. This stuff burns so hot that you can get much more to burn, even if it's a little bit more damp than you could with char cloth. So I had a full little baggie there, and I started 3 fires, and we still have quite a bit left over. And like I said, it weighs absolutely nothing. Before we end this video, let me go ahead and show you something else that's pretty cool. And you definitely can't do this with char cloth. You can take your steel wool, and it doesn't even matter if it gets wet. I just dunked it into a 5-gallon bucket of water here, and I'm just shaking it out. Try to get out as much of that moisture as possible. You will definitely want to pull this apart more when it's wet, so you don't have any big clusters of moisture. Let's light it up. So we just dunked this in water. We shook it out for about 30 seconds. Let's see if it lights up. And it sure does, guys. Watch that burn. Woo! You definitely couldn't do that with char cloth. So my friends, thank you all so much for joining me for this episode of the Outdoor Gear Review. If you guys have any questions for me, please feel free, drop me a line, let me know. Make sure to like our Facebook page. Why not, right? I'll see you guys around. Everybody, take care, strength and honor.